I'm Ariana J, and I help current and aspiring providers start, grow, and scale their licensed assisted living homes, group homes, or community hab businesses. Now, I have always said that I help people start licensed, right? And I want to, this live is really going to break down some things for you new members that are joining, for you aspiring providers and current providers. You're probably going to learn something here today too. So let's go ahead and get into it. I will not be able to get into it as deep as I go inside of the Startup Provider Program, because this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just a little sprinkle. But so I want to leave that here. I want to be very clear on that, okay? So I made notes, and I want to give some context first. When I created the Startup Provider Program, one of the biggest challenges I faced was every state has different regulations, requirements, okay? You have to understand that first and foremost. And so the way I created the program was to be able to help anybody in any state as long as you were in the US. All right. So let me just put that out there right now. So this information that I'm going to be giving you follows the same rules. You have to look at your state requirements, because there's no way in the world that I am going to be able to retain everybody's regulations. I am human, right? I can find anybody's rates. I can find anybody's regulations, requirements, all said things. However, it is going to depend on your state. All right? Is that good context enough? Everybody with me? Everybody flowing with me? Okay, good. So with licensed, unlicensed, and certified, I didn't add certified in there in the title. I just thought it was going to confuse everybody. But we are going to be talking about licensed, unlicensed, and certified, because there are three different buckets. There are three different animals, and I want you guys to understand that. So the three: licensed, unlicensed, and certified. Somebody put that in the chat so I know that y'all are following along with me. And then within that, we're going to be talking about, if you don't have a pen and paper out, you might want to get a pen and paper out. We're going to be breaking it down by a couple of different things. But there are, within those buckets, there are 4 different categories within each one. They're going to be the type of care, the clientele, the regulation, and the funding source, okay? All 4 of those. That's how we're going to go through this, because I had to break it down that way, because if I didn't, it would be no way to really separate each one, right? In my mind, I could, but teaching it, explaining it to you all would be a little bit difficult for you to understand, okay? So just know that as I go through this. So we're going to start off with the licensed, right? We're going to talk about the type of care. So with licensed care, a lot of people jump to seniors, aged, and that's not true. And I'm not going to be able to be so detailed on all of the different types of care, because there's a lot. But when we're looking at licensed care, we're looking at the license that we have to obtain from residential licensing is typically what we're talking about, okay? So depending on what it's called in your state, depending on all of those different factors, that is going to be the licensed care. And within that, you can serve a variety of different clientele. That could be the age, it could be mental health, it could be DD, it could be youth, right? Shout out to everybody who wants to work with the youth. That's still a certain type of licensed care. Within that, you have to look, we're going deeper, right? Layers. Within that, you have to look at your regulations, your state division of licensing, whatever type of license it is, you're going to be looking at those regulations, right? Those touch points that you have to meet in order to become licensed. You also have to look at within that some zoning and permitting, because that's a big factor too. They can specify where you can set up shop, where within your city, the different zoning areas. It can be a whole bunch of different things, but no, that's a part of it. And then there's the funding. So with licensed, you typically have access to private pay, state, and Medicaid, which I sometimes say federal fund. If you're new to my world, you'll hear me say like Fed funded, right? Same thing as Medicaid in my eyes. But some of those services that you are going to be providing care for based off of your type of care you're going to provide in licensed, you might have to be certified too. We're going to get to certified in just a minute. Now, when we're talking about unlicensed care, most people, when they think of unlicensed care, they think of homeless, serving the homeless, whether it's homeless vets or just homeless individuals in general, or women, felons, housing felons are something people think about when they think of unlicensed care. Aged out youth, right? Transitional living, they think of unlicensed care, and they automatically say, I have an unlicensed group home. Now, the term group home is a licensed term. Typically, in most states, if you say to zoning or licensing, I have an unlicensed group home, they'll be like, wait a minute, no, group home is licensed. So that's what we're going to go with. The consensus, that's what we're going to go with, okay? So whether it's a boarding home, it could be unlicensed. It can be a transitional living home, those type of things. A boarding house, I think I already said that. But anyways, when people say unlicensed, that's where their mind goes, okay? But what I want you to know is that there are several services that are unlicensed. That meaning you don't have to be licensed with your state, but you do have to be certified, which we're going to get to in a second, to bill Medicaid. So when I talk about unlicensed care, that's what I'm kind of referring to, and that's kind of in the community hab space, with the exception of transitional living for age out. You can be unlicensed, but to bill Medicaid, you have to be certified, okay? People say, I want to start an unlicensed group home. I want to serve homeless. I want to start an unlicensed group home. I want to serve aged out youth. You guys see it all over the interwebs because I see it all over the interwebs. And a lot of you are in the same groups that I'm in. So I know that you guys are saying that or seeing it. And some of you are asking the question, right? So drop it in the chat. All right. So a lot of the unlicensed services that I talk about, you do have to be certified. When you're looking at, if you want to do a unlicensed or independent living home or boarding home, I am going to, reference you over to Group Home Riches. They do that over there. They have a course for that. I think it's under $200, and you can go over there and do that. I purchased that course because I wanted to understand a little bit more about it. I think Toya told me that she did that course too. Here's the deal. Here's my input on unlicensed, or I don't even want to use the word unlicensed group home because I just told you guys not to do that, or the terminology is different, but a boarding home or independent living home, for me to make the amount of money that I want to make, I would need to have 50 freaking homes with at least 5 to 10 individuals in there. And that ain't gang for me. I don't want to do that. I want two homes, which I have, and I want to hit a mill with that. And I want to make serious impact to the clients in my care. Point blank, period. I don't want 50 homes. But if that's what you want, if that's something that you guys are looking into, that's something you want, cool. Go over there, check them out. It's super cost effective, under $200, and you can see the whole course. But even with that, you have to look at local zoning laws. And then I think they fall, they teach primarily that it goes under the Landlord Tenant Act, something along those lines. And for funding, when we're looking at unlicensed that I'm talking about, It could be private, it could be state, and it could be Medicaid, either or. And Medicaid or Fed funded if you are certified. Okay, y'all rolling with me? So let's pop over to certified. Let's talk about what that looks like. What's the course called? Startup Provider Program. Ow. Yeah, that's what it's called. Startup Provider Program. And if you want to go to, if you want to check it out, go to www.startupprovider.com. So let's pop over to certified. This is the club to be in, okay? Certified. So again, this certified care or certified provider, there's a variety of different services. I have a whole training inside of the Startup Provider Program, and this is not a live for the Startup Provider Program for promo, but it is my program and it's great and I have to talk about it. But inside of that program, there is a training called 12 plus types of care, and I break it down. So certified, basically you need to become a certified provider approved by the state, enrolled into Medicaid to provide any of the services under the certified realm. Sometimes being certified, well, if you're providing group home services, you will need to be licensed and certified in most states, not all. Shout out to Iowa. You don't have to be licensed. Shout out to where else? Ohio. You don't have to be licensed. Each state, I'm telling you, is so different. So with the certified, as a certified provider, you get to bill Medicaid. You guys will hear me talking about, well, what's your rates? What's your rates? And those are Medicaid rates. Again, if you are doing private pay or state funded, you can find your rates still. But for me, when I'm helping people and they look at everything, trust me, they go through the program and they look at everything and they're like, oh, no, I want that one right there. You know, being a certified provider, you can serve, as far as clientele, aged, you can serve mental health, DD, you can serve youth in different capacities, right? And so I just wanted to break that down. And let me be very clear. For the certified services, you do have to have typically some experience or background in the field. Okay. If you just found out about this type of care and you're just wallowing into it, you may not qualify. And I'm going to be very frank with that. But that doesn't mean that you cannot break into the business. There are so many different types of care out there. You just have to come in with an open mind. Okay. So again, the certified is a federally funded program. And I say that because it's Fed money. Medicaid is Fed money, and it flows through the state. The state pays you for that through a waiver, the Medicaid waiver, okay? And the waiver is a federally funded vehicle that holds the funds for said programs. And there's so many different waiver programs out there. Show you how to find all of that inside of the program. But sometimes for some certified services, you need to be licensed and certified, okay? With funding, so you have federal funding, Medicaid, you can have some state funded, right? And you can have private pay. And I just want you to know that there's a variation of those that can happen. I take a couple of those, right? Actually, pretty much all three for my services. So it's going to depend on the type of care. It's going to depend on the clientele that you serve and the service that you provide. It's going to depend on the regulations and funding source. All of that goes into everything. Does that make sense? So it's very hard to say that said type of care is going to be identical to someone else's, and that's just not true. The moral of the story is you get to start the care, or you get to provide the care that you want to the clientele that you want to serve, and you have to be very aware of that. Do not try to go copy somebody else because you see them doing it and that's the only way, and it's not true. You get to start the care that you want. You get to start the business and care that you want and you desire. So if you are new to this group, you can expect me to talk about licensed assisted living, group home, or community hub businesses, and some of those are not licensed, okay? But I am not referring to independent living home for the homeless or boarding home for the homeless. That is not this. That's not what I'm talking about over here. So I want to be very clear. Okay. And I define, just so you guys know, I define community hub as a service that happens outside of a licensed residential setting. Okay. That could be providing care in a resident's own home, or that could be providing care in the community setting. And there's a variety of different types of care that you can provide in those settings. But that's just how I'm defining it. If you go look it up in the dictionary, it's not going to be there like that. But I do want you to know that's what it's about. And the HAB part, like the community part, but the HAB part of it is for habilitative, and not everything has to be habilitative, but I have it on there like that. Okay. So that's it in a nutshell. If you who are watching this have any questions about the Startup Provider Program, you are serious about joining or becoming a provider, and you feel the nudge and the calling to do so, definitely send me a DM, or you can go over to www.startupprovider.com and you can enroll that way. Okay? All right.